So this is Cindy Maram, founder and editor-in-chief of Dig In Magazine, and welcome to Dig In Magazine's diverse artist spotlight and coverage of SFFilm Festival. I am happily joined here by Anne Lai, executive director of SFFilm. Hi, Anne. Welcome. Thanks so much for being here with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's great to be able to sit down and actually chat with someone.
Oh yeah, it is really nice. And I did attend the SF Film Festival press conference, so I got to hear you speak about the festival and on the film program there. So that was really nice and informative to hear from everyone. And like I was just saying earlier, the last time we spoke was at Sundance 2020 at one of their special events there, which was really awesome because Sundance always hosts the best events. And there's been some really big changes. SF Film has adapted quite well. And for this year's SF Film Festival, I understand that you're hosting a hybrid event with drive-ins at Fort Mason in San Francisco, as well as virtual screenings for films. And how did that decision come about to incorporate drive-ins instead of just having a pure virtual festival? Because a lot of festivals are just holding it purely online, but I really like that you're also incorporating drive-ins. It makes it a little more interesting and fun, and gives it more of that community feel that we've always come to film festivals for.
Yeah, that's such a great question, and thanks for asking it. I mean, what was so interesting in the past year is just every festival has had to navigate their region where they hold their festival and all of these different elements very individually, because different parts of the country were sort of handling pandemic regulation and what it should look like, or what it could look like in their sort of location. And for us, what we were excited to be able to do was a couple of things. One of the things that we learned to do in the past year was to put events online. So that was something that everyone was figuring out how to do. It was something we did very quickly after the cancellation of our festival last year. And what that offered was this idea of opening up the space where you didn't have to physically travel somewhere to see a special screening and have a special conversation. You could also, be outside of the Bay Area and be able to join as well. And so as we came in and as we started designing the festival for this year, the 2021 festival, we knew that the spine and the foundation for the festival was going to be online. So really it became a matter of figuring out the sort of easiest way that someone could navigate the platform. And, for those who are not technically minded, I probably throw myself in that category. How do we make it as easy as possible? So in a way, the decision to be online was not a difficult one. It sort of became then the nuance of what are the things we want to make sure are accessible to our audience. With the online platform, we're able to offer, over 50 features, over 50 short films, and they're available, almost all of them are available for the duration of 10 days, which is pretty unusual, and also available across the whole US. And that's obviously something new for us. We are a regionally based festival, and the idea is really just to embrace and invite who is with us physically. So we still are trying to really cater to that audience, but now opening it up to this idea that I have family on the East Coast, or I have family in the different parts, or I have a friend who I love watching movies with. I'm going to have them join and watch movies with me, and we'll sort of attend it virtually together. And then, so that feels very special and something we wanted to be able to design. The second piece of it that you brought up is the drive-in. And for us, it was a little bit of thinking and guessing, where will we be in April in the Bay Area, and knowing that indoor, in theaters, in person is still a little bit of a tricky thing. With the drive-in, we had a great experience with it in October of last year. We did a weekend of movies, and it was just so fun. It was really great to be in person. It was really great to actually see some of our audiences. And it also felt very comfortable and it felt very safe. So we have 6 nights of drive-ins during the course of the festival. And that has been sometimes the first time I'm meeting some people that I've been on email with or I've done Zooms with and hadn't seen physically. Our staff is there, our audience is there. Sometimes the filmmakers are also able to be there. So that feels like it's giving us a little bit of a hint of the future of getting back into that kind of environment.
Yes, definitely. I think that's a really positive aspect of the film festival. It just makes it so much more entertaining and fun to take part in.
Mhm.
And you mentioned that you have, certain films that are being featured at the drive-ins. How did you, or what, what spawned that decision to choose certain films for the drive-ins?
It was our programming team, and we have a new director of programming, Jessie Fairbanks, who started with us at the very beginning of this year. So she's not been here very long. And a lot of the thinking behind choosing what films should be at the drive-in were a few things. We wanted to have a mix of documentary and narrative. So that was one of the factors. The other factor, too, was what would also feel like a film that would work well in a drive-in. So for anyone who's been to a drive-in, the experience of sitting in your car and listening to sound on your radio and being in a looking at a screen through a windshield is not a normal, regular sort of experience. So
Right.
we know that. Let's embrace it. We're in a beautiful location. If you come to one of our early, our first screenings of the night, you're most likely going to get a beautiful sunset over the water at the same time. So it is a eventized experience. So that was sort of the thinking a little bit about what is a kind of film that could do well in that environment, that won't get I don't know quite how to phrase that won't get sort of squashed by the environment that you're in, and that can really sort of thrive in it. I do think it's a little bit unusual to have documentaries at the drive-in, but it also feels really special. And we know that our audience, we have a big a documentary community here in the Bay Area, and so being able to show that work at the drive-in is really fun. We have also one. A music and film event that's coming up on Thursday. And this is Fantastic Negrito performing a live score to a re-edit of The Lost Landscapes of Oakland. And that to us and that's only going to exist in that format. It's not going to exist online because it does feel very much like a sort of tangible physical experience. So those kinds of things that just felt like very obvious choices. And then hopefully a little bit of an experimentation of trying to put some documentaries there that you might not normally see in that environment, and let's see how it goes.
That's great. And I love documentaries. I mean, they're always, so informative and on
Mhm.
very important topics. Many are very, very moving as well. So I'm really happy to hear you have so many docs in the festival. And I had a question regarding the selection process for the films that you choose to be in the festival. What criteria do you have in selecting the films for the film program?
Sure. So all that responsibility really lies with our programming team. And Jesse is the head of that team, but we also have some very wonderful longtime members of the programming team, including, Rod Armstrong and Audrey Chang, who've been with us for many, many years and with the organization for many years. The way in which they sort of intake a lot of films, beginning in the fall of last year. So there's many months sort of devoted to this watching of films, often watching films that aren't quite done and aren't quite ready yet, but you're catching them at a moment and knowing they're going to be ready in time for your festival, or hoping to be ready in time for your festival. The first criteria is always, is it something feels that feels fresh and unique? Is there a voice in there? Is there a story in there that feels a little bit different, whether it's the perspective or the subject or the way in which a story is told? Um, we are always quite proud to have a world premiere or a North American premiere or a Bay Area premiere. Those are always quite good, but those are not hard and fast sort of rules. They're just things that we're interested in. We're also particularly interested in having as diverse a pool of films and filmmakers to look at. So that's both internationally and sort of trying to canvas different parts of the world, different regions, different kinds of filmmakers. So a lot of the work that the programming team is doing is trying to not only look at everything that comes in automatically as people, as filmmakers are applying to the festival, but also doing outreach and talking to other festivals, other film curatorial hubs, and just hearing what's out there and spending time throughout the year and tracking a filmmaker. So being aware, maybe through our Makers program, there was a film that we helped support 3 years ago, and we think that they're in post-production. This
Oh,
is something like let's check in. Are they ready to share it? Are they ready to be able to do it? So there's a lot of reactive and proactive work that's done. And then it really just becomes about the programming team watching as much as possible, discussing with each other and within a team, and really knowing, this is not, I don't know that this is quite for me, but I want someone else to take a look at it. So trying to give as much benefit and understanding that there's something really special here, and this feels like it's a moment also that it's ready, that it's going to be ready, and it's something that can really just uh, jump out at audiences, and that audiences can really embrace it. And there's not the goal for us as a festival is not that every film has exactly the same amount of attention. There are different tastes. And as you know, a filmmaker once said to me, it's like, this film might not be your cup of tea, but it's someone's cup of tea. And that's the thing that you're trying to get to, is there's this film, and I think it's going to speak to a particular kind of audience member, and that's really important to us. So I'm not quite answering, I don't know that I'm answering your question
no,
exactly.
I understand. You're
Yeah,
answering,
yeah.
I get the gist, and I appreciate the feedback and the answer. You had mentioned, SF or SF film supported films. Year round, you feature many, films that you support, and also those that are in the festival. Many are SF film supported films. Not all of them. I know that.
Oh,
I'm fine. Thanks for asking. I love that film. I just watched it. That was great. And I know,
good.
yeah, and I know, that was in competition and won the jury award at South by Southwest. Yeah, that was definitely a unique story, and that was very enjoyable. And I think a lot of other people enjoyed it as well. In regards to like supporting certain films and filmmakers throughout the year, SF Film has grants and fellowship given to certain filmmakers for film projects. And in regards to that, how do you choose the filmmakers and the recipients of grants and fellowships?
Sure. Thanks for asking that. We have a program, our artist development program. It's called Makers. It's led by a wonderful woman, Lauren McBride. And what she and her team do is throughout the year, we have grants that are open both for narrative feature films as well as documentary feature films. Separate from that, we have a residency that is about supporting an artist at a particular moment, perhaps in their career, and providing a workspace for them to develop their work and build out a network. So with the granting, on the documentary side, we are looking most likely at feature films that are in post-production. And in need of support to get through post-production and finish the film. So one of the films that we have in our documentaries international section at the festival is called Writing with Fire. It's from co-directors Rintu Thomas and Sushmit Ghosh. And they and that film were selected for our DFF grant last year. And they were in post, and they were new on our radar, and they were trying to finish their film. And so we were able to support them last summer with a grant. They finished the film. They had a premiere at Sundance where they won a couple of jury prizes, an audience award and a jury prize. We were able to do their Bay Area premiere here with the festival. And so that's sort of an interesting trajectory where we're able to support them. There are also grants for narrative filmmakers, and those are filmmakers most likely in development on their script. So still in the writing phase, perhaps late in the writing phase, and can benefit from both a grant that supports them as well as very bespoke creative feedback that comes with perhaps a mentor that is a more experienced writer or director working with you. That can be strategic advice. Can we help give them a little bit of guidance? Maybe they are trying to find an agent. Maybe they are ready to go into production and they're a director and writer and they don't have a producer. Can we help make some introductions? So, in fact, during the festival, we had a series of industry meetings that happened on the first weekend where we held and curated both a set of what we consider current grantees out of the Makers program, as well as festival filmmakers with films in the festival for a series of meetings with financiers, distributors, sales reps, and agents. And that's all about trying to build your network and build your relationships. So wherever you are at your particular moment in career, you can begin to take advantage of momentum of being a recent grantee or having a film, at on the festival circuit.
That's really wonderful that SFFilm supports filmmakers, from the very beginning. So that's extremely helpful. And shifting gears a little bit, in regards to like your new move to SFFilm, you came from another organization. What inspired that move? And it was fairly recently, and I'm sure you've been so busy since. And what caused you to make that move? And overall, how has your time been so far working with SFFilm?
Yeah, I'll answer that last question first, which has been, it's been great. It's been really wonderful. I moved here and I started at SF Film just about a year ago. It was in March of 2020. And as we know, that was the month that everything got a little pear-shaped in the US, right? Everything started getting canceled. We had to cancel our festival just as I was coming in. We were heading into a lockdown and shelter in place, and all of those things were happening. I had spent the previous almost 13 years at Sundance Institute, and I see the Sundance poster behind you, so that makes me smile. I was at Sundance for a long time, and I worked in the artist development program. I was the director of creative producing, and a lot of the work that I did was specifically with trying to help and support directors, writers, and producers as they were embarking, often making their first or second film. Um, and I also, ran a program that was in collaboration with the festival that was about connecting, making connections in sort of a marketplace that was called Talent Forum that we did for the last couple of years at Sundance at the festival. So this idea that has always really excited me is like, what is the nexus of where filmmakers are trying to create something that is both incredibly personal but meant for large public consumption, and who are the people and what are the places and different organizations and touch points in that ecosystem of starting with an idea that's very um, tends to start with one person, obviously gets much bigger as you're making the film, to how do you get it out to audiences? And that might be starting with a festival and then ultimately through distribution. So for me, what was exciting and what really attracted me to SF Film, I was aware of the work that SF Film was doing. It had a wonderful reputation with filmmakers, both for the festival, also through artist development. I had spent a little time in the Bay Area. I have some family here, so that's always a nice thing. And I would come up here quite a bit just to visit friends and family, and always thought and still think that the Bay Area is so incredibly beautiful, and the culture is so rich and interesting. So for me, in coming to SF Film, what I felt so lucky to be able to jump into was a smaller organization than Sundance. So something that had a much more geographically specific location, that also interested me. So this idea that we have this hub of audience that is that has been very loyal to our festival over the last, this is our 64th year. So for many decades, and a membership that was really robust. We have filmmakers that are very involved also with SF Film, but that footprint also gets larger, that we have internationally supported filmmakers through the festival, through artist program, artist development. So for me, it was this idea of all of these things that I really love about what an arts organization can do in this nexus of where all of these things meet for independent filmmaking, and to do it in a really specific way. That was incredibly attractive to me.
That's wonderful. Well, we're so glad to have you at SF Film. It's very exciting. SF Film, usually has events throughout the year. I've attended many of those events. What can we expect from SF Film in the future?
Yeah.
Will there be more events, after the film festival?
For sure. We will definitely have more events. Over the years, the organization has become much more of a year-round public-facing organization. So obviously, the festival is our largest public-facing event. It lasts a long time. There's a lot of different films and conversations and Q&As to access. We will continue to do smaller public programs, and they might be series, they might be one-offs. Last year we did over 50 Zoom events between March and the end of last year. So I don't know that we'll quite do as many of that. I
It's a
think the
lot.
thing, it was a lot. It was a lot. And it was exciting to be able to do it. What we want to, as we think about this year, is we will start easing back into in person more. So that feels like a very exciting opportunity. Theaters, maybe some other outdoor screenings. That has been a really fun thing to be able to do. We are going to be celebrating our 30th anniversary of our education program. So we will later this year be doing some special events tied to education. And that is, will be most likely films and conversations very geared towards students, teachers, families. And that feels very exciting for us. So we'll have that happening later in the year. We will definitely do some special sneak preview screenings and conversations with filmmakers later this summer, but definitely in the fall around awards season. That tends to be very robust. We have an awards night at the end of the year. And what's interesting, we did it as everyone did last year, at the end of last year, as a virtual awards night. And a lot of those awardees, Aaron Sorkin and Chloe Zhao, and One Night in Miami cast, and they are all still very heavily in the running for Academy Awards. So it feels like we were able to have a really special, lovely moment with them in December of last year, and it's kind of now all coming to fruition. So we look forward to what our awards night will be at the end of this year. So definitely more to come, and we want to keep our audiences engaged. All the films online are still going to be available through the end of the weekend, and keep an eye out. We will have more things in 2021.